Happy 4th of July, everybody. It's Chad from 6 Blog. So a couple of weeks ago, I posted a few pictures and videos on my backpack here. I was getting ready to do a hike that was finally going to put me into Virginia on the Appalachian Trail, and I was actually going SUL on that particular hike. I posted some pictures, some people asked questions, so I decided to do a video. Everything that I have in the pack here is everything that I carried, everything that I posted in that initial video. So today I just want to take time and do a post-hike gear talk video and talk about the gear that I used on the hike. As far as the hike itself, I started at Dennis Cove Road and we finished in Damascus. It was a 50-mile hike. My plans was to do it in 2 days. I was planning on just splitting up down the middle, do 2 25-mile days. Truth be told, most of the big climbs that we had, which weren't super big, but they were big enough to be big, were on the first day. The rest of the time, it was ridge walking. It was a little more difficult than what I anticipated it being, but still, I wouldn't say that it was like strenuous or anything like that. It was just kind of difficult. So what we ended up doing is the first day we ended up doing 21.5 miles, and then the second day we did 29 miles. Big thing about that, for me, the most miles that I hiked previous to this hike was 26 miles in a day, and that was actually the first 26 miles of the AT running through the Smokies, starting at Fontana. Besides that, I've had several other 20-mile days, 20-plus mile days, but that was the first time I had gotten 29. So really excited about that. Real quick, too, it wasn't just me that got the biggest miles out of that 29. It was also my son, his friend, and my buddy Craig. That was their biggest mile days, too. So 29 miles in a day, that's pretty cool. But anyway, so as far as the weather, we got there the first day. Before I left, I was anticipating thunderstorms possibly for both days, so I actually brought my Z-Packs Vertus rain jacket and my rain kilt from Z-Packs. The morning of the hike, they were showing that Friday was going to be just cloudy and that Sunday was going to be sunny. So I was like, okay, I'm going to leave the rain gear. I left the rain gear. So my total pack weight was 4.95 pounds for my base pack weight. That's everything except food, fuel, and water. By the time I added those things in, I was at approximately 10.2, 10.3 pounds total. Less than 10.5 pounds is what I carried in this pack. You know, that's a day pack weight. It's really awesome. I think it really helped me as far as doing those big miles. So I was pretty excited about that. We ended up, the Friday, it was just kind of cloudy. Sun actually came out kind of like it is right now. Just moments ago when I started this video, it was actually raining, kind of like on the trail. But it turned out it was a pretty nice day Friday. Friday night, we had a ton of rain, a lot of wind. It was remnants from Tropical Storm Cindy. By the time we woke up and got on the trail Saturday morning, which was about 5:45 a.m., the rain had stopped. There was still water and stuff blowing out of the leaves in the trees. A little later that morning, it actually started raining again. It rained for a little while, and then it kind of just went away. Towards the end of the day, the sun started coming out, and of course, that's when we made it into Damascus and finished the hike. So we had, everything from sunny to cloudy to rain to wind. So what I want to do is just talk about the gear here and talk about how it performed, how it did for me. I will say that if I was to do it again, I don't know if I would bring everything in this pack, and I'll kind of get to that in just a minute. But it's still quite easy for me, especially at this point of the year, to get less than 5 pounds. So what I want to do is I want to just start in the front pocket here and talk about these things. And also, if you hadn't noticed already, this is probably going to be a little bit of a long video. So first I want to start with my water filtration system. I have been using the Sawyer Mini since before they even hit the market. I was sent this exact Sawyer Mini water filter from some of the guys at Sawyer, and I've been using this since before it was available, this exact same Sawyer. I got to say, I love this thing. Water speed, a lot of people want to talk about the speed of water. I can filter using this setup right here, because what I generally do is use a Gatorade bottle that I drink out of when I come to a water source. I fill this bottle, or this soft bladder here, screw this on, I squeeze my water into my Gatorade bottles, and then I pack this back up. Of course, I can use this at night for camp to store extra water in camp, so I don't have to go and get it the next morning. But I can use this and filter my 20-ounce Gatorade bottles within 30 seconds. So it's not that bad. The flow rate has been fine. I haven't had any issues with it. I do take care to collect clean water if I can. I try and collect the cleanest water as possible. And when I get home, I always back flush it and then I store it. I always shake it, try and get as much of the water as I can out of it. And I've never had any issues with it. It's actually sat on my shelf for a couple of months between uses, and I've just never had any issues. I will say that with the Sawyers, I've seen brand new minis and squeezes fail right out of the package. I've seen some of them fail that's been in use. I think a lot of it has to do with just collecting dirty water, and the filter just gets clogged. But another thing is I think that sometimes it just kind of dries out. If it dries out, you have to soak it in some water and vinegar. I've never had that happen. A friend of mine has. He said he soaked it in some water and vinegar. After that, it was working back normal. So anyway, Sawyer Mini. I love this thing. It works great. Now, I do want to say I don't have one, but several of my friends have been using the Katahdin Be-Free filter. Very, very close weight. If you actually truthfully add the filter and the bladders that you carry, very, very close weight from some of the numbers I've seen compared to my system here. There may be a few grams difference going towards the Be-Free being a little bit lighter, but I think you got to compare, apples to apples, not apples to oranges. I will say that my buddy Craig Smith came with me on the hike. He was using a Be-Free filter, and it was astonishingly faster. I will say that it was astonishingly faster. How much faster it was, the flow rate on the Be-Free versus the Mini. But like I said, I can fill up my 20-ounce Gatorade bottles within 30 seconds per bottle with my Mini. It works great. I have no problems with it. I will say I do carry a little cut-down smart water bottle to dip from if I ever need to dip from streams or something that are puddles. Since if I can't let water just flow into this bag here. In my opinion, I would have to do the same thing with the Be-Free, even though it has a wider mouth on the bottle. If it's so shallow that you're going to have to scoop with a cup and pour, you're going to have to do it with that bottle the same way as you would have to do it with this bottle. So the wide opening, I agree, it does make it easier to fill up if you have a good flow. But if you got a good flow, it doesn't take very long to fill these up either. It does have a faster flow rate. It would probably cut that time almost in half over this. So I would be filtering 15 seconds versus 30 seconds. But 30 seconds is not bad. What I do like to do with this, and I could do it with the Be-Free as well, I'm just sure it probably wouldn't work as well. But one thing I like to do with this, and I've been doing it for a long time, I added this cord here to the bottom of my bag. And if I fill this bag with water, hang it from a tree, and pull this cap off the end, it flows out fairly slow because it's just a gravity mode. However, that means that it takes quite a while, several minutes for this bag to completely empty. What's nice about that though is I can do that and I can stand underneath it and it's enough water for me to wash my hair, kind of wash my body and stuff off, and it doesn't run out of water before I get done doing what I need to do. I can brush my teeth, I can wash dishes. It works really well. I've been very happy with it. Saying that, after watching my buddy use the Be-Free, I may one day pick up one just to give it a try. I'm not really sure. My biggest downfall with the Be-Free filters is the big opening. There's not many other products that are going to fit that. If for some reason the bottle that you're using to fill up were to fail, and you have that Be-Free filter, chances are you're not going to come across anything else that will work with that filter. Whereas with the Sawyer, you can. Most of your water bottles, your Dasani bottles, your soft drink bottles, a lot of different bottles will fit on this Sawyer Mini water filter. So you still be able to likely come across something that's going to work with it. Chances are somebody else with you might have a bottle that'll fit on it. You would probably find one on the trail. I know there's been more than once that I've seen bottles littered along the trail. And of course I could just pick one of those up and use that. Of course I'm filtering it, so it wouldn't really matter a whole lot what the bottle was used for. But anyway, there's a lot of options with this, whereas I don't see as many with the Be-Free. However, if it was more than one person carrying the Be-Free on a particular trip, I would feel a little more comfortable about that, because that way if something happened to one of our bottles, we can still share bottles with somebody else. So kind of long-winded, but that's my Sawyer Mini take so far, and also concerning the Be-Free. One thing, this I usually carry in my Ditty bag. This is the Anchor It's a 6400. Let's see, 6400 milliamp battery charger, and just a little charger for my iPhone. I carry iPhone. It's got the Lightning and the micro USB attachments on the back. They just kind of plug into each other, so I could recharge this with a micro USB, or I can charge my phone with the Lightning. Really like Anchor. They do a good job with their battery packs. This is just over 5 ounces for the 2 pieces, but I can get several. I think I can get about 3 or 4 charges if I only let it charge or discharge down to about 30% with this 6400. So I've been pretty happy with this. Longer trails, I'll probably stick with Anchor, just get a little bit larger capacity battery. But usually that's in my Ditty bag. I just took it out so I'd have it because I'm not emptying my Ditty bag in this video. This is my Bear line. It's H-line from Light Trail. Light Trail is no longer a company, but I like it. It's a little heavier than most of your, or some of your Bear lines. For the carabiner and the Bear line itself, it's a little over, about 1.5 ounces, I think. But I do like the fact that it's a little bit bigger and it has a coating. Some of the thinner lines I've used, first off, it's harder on my hands because it cuts into my hands when I'm trying to pull the bag up. Plus, it doesn't glide as easily over the limb. Not to mention, those thinner lines can actually cut into the limb. This will actually flatten out just a little bit, and it'll glide a little easier, and it won't cut into the limb. And it's also a little gentler on my hands. So overall, I just like this line just a little bit better, even though it's a little heavier. But anyway, like I said, this is from Light Trail. It's no longer available. I know Lawson Klein, he has a Bear line, and I think it's pretty much kind of the same kind of ideas behind it as this. It's a little heavier duty, a little thicker, and probably has a coating too. But I like this a lot more than some of the other Bear lines I've been using, and I just continue to keep carrying it. Like I said, it's about 1.5 ounces with a little mini beaner and 50-foot hank of the line. My Zebra light, I was actually looking at my long-term review the other day on my blog. I've had this over 5 years now. I absolutely love this thing. It's H51. They're not available anymore. It was H52s, and now I think it's even up to the H53s. I think those are the newest model now. I have a do-it-yourself headband. This is just some elastic I bought at Walmart. I sewed it together to be the size of my head, of course with a little bit of stretch. And then I sewed 2 smaller loops that just kind of loop or thread it through that to hold the headlight in place. Works great. It's technically it's 1.99 ounces on my scale. I just call it 2 ounces. Works great. I love it. I don't have any plans of changing out headlamps unless something just happens to this. And if you'll go back and read my long-term review, you can get a lot more information about the light itself. But I absolutely love this light. This is a Sea to Summit Alpha Shorty spoon or whatever. I use the Light Trail Cook Kit. I'll pull it out and show you in a little bit. But it's a 550 milliliter pot. It works great because it's not longer than it has to be, but it's plenty long enough to get into that little pot I eat out of. It works well. It is not, it's kind of not really textured, but it's not a polished bowl. It may be polished, I don't know. But I've had some other spoons that was more like a blasted kind of finish to it, and it wasn't just as comfortable to eat off of. This is a little more comfortable than some of the other spoons I have. I say comfortable, more normal feeling, I guess, and it's just kind of smooth. Anyway, it's just a spoon. It just weighs like 0.25, 0.26 ounces or something like that. Pretty lightweight. It's aluminum. It's hard anodized aluminum, so it's not going to break. It can bend, but I can bend it back. I guess it could break under the right circumstances, but I'm never going to push it that hard. All right, this is a do-it-yourself Cuban fiber stuff sack. I made this from the do-it-yourself Cuban fiber stuff sack options from Yama Mountain Gear. And inside I have the Deuce of Spades potty trowel from the Tent Lab. I've used these several times. They're pretty nice actually. I like them a lot. They do the job. Now I want to say that this thing is 0.6 ounces. Whenever you get into potty trowels that are such lightweight trowels, they're not going to be the most comfortable to use, but they do work. They work well. They're strong. And they get the job done. As a bonus, it can also serve as an extra tent stake in case something happens to a tent stake. But anyway, the Tent Lab Deuce of Spades potty trowel. I actually mix that one up. Sometimes I'll carry Lawson Klein's potty trowel. It's made out of titanium. It's a little burlier than that one, a little bit heavier. It weighs 0.7 ounces, so it's 1/10 of an ounce heavier. not much heavier. But sometimes I use that, sometimes I use this. I was kind of looking at the lightest weight possible on this particular hike, that's why I chose that one. And inside I have 2 MSR carbon core stakes and 2 of Rudolacura Sorex stakes. Now these are his old previous model stakes. These are not the ones, the exact same ones that are on site today. The ones that he's got on site today, I believe maybe they're wrapped now, so it probably provides a little more strength than these older ones. These are just plain carbon fiber shafts with aluminum tips and aluminum heads. Honestly, I get nervous about using these because carbon fiber, they do great as far as if you're putting pressure straight down, but if you start kind of bending them either way, they'll snap real easy. I've not had any of these snap. That doesn't mean that. But it is one thing I kind of worry about. For that reason, I haven't really used these a whole lot. For this hike, though, I just figured why not? I'll go ahead and carry them. So I carried them. I believe Z-Packs also sell some that are similar to these. You can look on their site and check those out. And, of course, the MSR carbon core stakes. I've been using these for years now. In particular, I've been using these exact 2 for years. I really do like these. I bought these on a whim several years back. I had I don't know, about 20 bucks or something on an REI dividend, and I didn't need anything from REI, so I was looking. These stakes are actually 35 bucks for 4 of them. These are probably the most expensive tent stakes I've ever bought, and some of the most expensive that I've seen for sale. But I didn't need anything else. I was like, you know what, just forget it. I ordered them. I've really had some good. They've worked well. Like I said, I always carry 2 of them with me. They work well. I did have a couple one day in my yard. The tips pulled off when I was pulling them out of my yard. I don't know what that was up with. But I contacted MSR, and I have one that did that, and they actually sent me 3 back. So, I mean, it was a failure. I probably could have still made it work in the field. But MSR, they live up to their warranty. It's all part of Cascade Designs, which is Thermarest and all that stuff too. But they're well known for having good customer service, good warranties. So it is what it is. I'm not going to tell everybody to run out and buy those carbon core stakes. Like I said, they are pretty expensive, but I have them and I enjoy using them. I like them, and can't really complain. So that's all that was in the outside of my backpack. So now I'll kind of go into the inside of my backpack. First off, this is the Granite Gear. They call it the Uberlite CTF 10-liter roll top bag. This is what I use as my food bag. I generally use this as a food bag if I'm out for 3 days or less because I can fit everything that I need in this thing. But anyway, it's a light Cuban fiber. I'm going to say this is probably around 0.5 ounce per square yard Cuban fiber. I've been using it for a while. I actually had mice chew some holes through it some time back. I just repaired it with tape. That's the cool thing about Cuban fiber. Repair it with tape. It's actually worked really well, though. I've been very happy with this bag, particularly as a food bag. I could see using it also as a stuff sack for something. If I use stuff sack, I don't use a whole lot of stuff sacks. But if I needed a roll top dry sack, I think it will come in great for that. I don't even know if they still make these anymore. Like I said, I've had this for several years. But anyway, it works great. And like I said, generally for shorter hikes, this is what I use as my food bag. For longer hikes, I use the Z-Packs Blast food bag. It's a little bit bigger, made out of 1.4 Cuban, and it's just a bigger, stronger, tougher bag. But anyway, that's that one. Now this is my Ditty bag. I have several things in there. I actually need to do an updated video. This is an Eagle Creek. It's a packet system. It's the quarter size. I really like this bag because you can kind of see through it just a little bit, but also it's bright green. It's easy to see in my backpack, so I know what I'm looking for if I need to find it. It does have a zipper compartment, and the way it works is it kind of folds open from the top, so I really like being able to access that. I can get in there plenty of room, and it's easy enough to close back up. I think it's about 0.5, anywhere from 0.4 to 0.6 ounces, something like that, just for the bag itself. I could go lighter with a Cuban stuff sack. I actually used one for a long time, but since I've been using this, I've been very happy with it. I don't see me changing, honestly, to be quite honest. It's got plenty of room. Of course, I have medicines, repair stuff. I have a little bit of extra cord in there if I need anything. And like I said, I have my little Swiss Army knife is in there. Earplugs, and I generally keep my Anchor power charger and cord and everything in there. Any kind of electronics I'll keep in there too. So that's that. I'm not going to go through all that stuff. Maybe one day I will. Alright, this is my hammock. Like I said, this is a do-it-yourself thing that Craig Smith made me several years back, a couple years back anyway. I used the Kevlar, 8-foot Kevlar straps from Dutch as my tree straps, and then I have 2-foot Amsteel loops from Whoopee, or not Whoopee, but just 2-foot Amsteel loops. And when I say 2 foot, if you was to actually pull it apart and measure the cord in single length, it would be 4 feet, but it's looped to make a 2-foot loop. I have that on each end. Other than that, it is a, I can't remember the dimensions on it. I'm going to say it's somewhere around 9.5 feet long by about 52 inches wide. It's not the smallest hammock, but it's not the biggest hammock. It's made from Dutch's Nylon D 1.0. It's a single layer, not much to it. I don't think it's the same material that he made the stuff sack out of, and then it's just got a shock cord there to close it up. But anyway, he made this for me a couple of years ago. You know, Craig is a big hammock guy. If you have any questions, I'm pretty sure he can answer it. He has pretty much either been in, used, owned, had his hands on probably every hammock that they have out there. I mean, he's a big hammock guy. He's also really good at sewing, making different stuff, and he actually made this for me some time back. It's 9.2 ounces for everything that I just listed. And that also includes a ridge line, an adjustable ridge line that's on the hammock itself. And then I also put the little drip lines on. I posted a picture of that before I left too. Added those. So it's actually probably now closer to 9.22 ounces because of the little drip lines I added. But anyway, honestly on this hike, it was probably the most comfortable night I've had in a hammock, but that's not saying much. I am a tent guy. I am not a hammock guy. This hammock is just like I said, it's a single layer hammock. Doesn't have any bug netting on the top. Of course, it doesn't have any insulation underneath. Most of your hammocks don't have that. But anyway, this was, to be honest, this was probably comfort-wise, as far as laying in a hammock, that was probably one of the most comfortable nights I spent in a hammock. But everything else about the hammock, it does not work with me. I've completely decided I am not a hammock guy. I've decided this before, and I've decided again. When I hung my hammock up, I made sure everything was the way it was supposed to be. Craig even looked at it. He agreed it was the way it was supposed to be. I laid in it on a diagonal so that I could lay pretty much flat. My problem was, when I lay down to go to sleep, I generally start off on my back, and that's good for a hammock. However, once it comes time for me to go to sleep, I'm generally turning on my side. And throughout the night, I'm usually rolling back and forth between left side, my back, my right side. I'm usually going just, all over the place. In a hammock, I just cannot get to the point to where I'm comfortable doing that because the hammock just kind of moves around too much. I could use a bridge hammock, sure. It would be a little better. But if my goal is to go flat, I would just rather be on the ground rather than fidget trying to do it up in the air. I'm not trying to knock hammocks. I'm not trying to knock any hammock guys. It's just that for me, it's just not going to work. What is nice, though, is that since this only weighs 9.2 ounces for warm weather hikes and my pack weights are so low, I don't mind throwing this in my pack because I will say that when I get to camp, throwing that thing up and just hanging out in a hammock, it is very relaxing. Like I said, it's when I go to sleep that I start having issues. Now, one other thing that I could say that would have helped my conditions on this particular hike if I would have had a bug net over me. That would have helped two different things. First off, I've never had any issues with mosquitoes or anything like that biting me in the mountains. I didn't this time either. However, at night, once it turned nighttime, as soon as I would turn my headlamp on, if I needed to turn it on for anything, it didn't take but a couple of seconds for bugs to just swarm me. There were spiders building spider web nests up underneath my hammock, off of the lines and stuff. Lots of bugs was attached and kind of came to me. They never bothered me as long as my light was off, but if I ever did turn my light on, that was it. There was bugs everywhere. Like I said, a bug netting would have helped that, so I can't really blame the hammock for that, but that would have been more weight. That would have put all of my weight up, and since I was kind of going for weight, I could have just brought my hammock or my tent, and I wouldn't have had to worry about any of it, and I would have been at less weight. Other than that, like I said, Tropical Storm Cindy, the remnants blew in on us that night. Wind was kicking and rain was falling. It was torrential. The air was completely saturated, and the wind was blowing so bad that it was just blowing the moisture, the droplets and everything completely up underneath my tarp. And all night long, I could sit there and I could feel water just kind of barely hitting me, kind of like somebody was standing next to me with a mist bottle. If I had a bug netting over me, that bug netting would have stopped probably almost 100% of that water, so that would have helped again. But then I go back to what I just said a while ago. If I wanted to get away from all that, I could have just carried my tent. But anyway, it was just a long night between the bugs. Eventually, the whole hammock and myself and my quilt was kind of covered in a layer of mist and dew. So it was just kind of a pretty bad night. But anyway, hammocks. And I'll go ahead and talk about this. This is the Appalachian hammock. I think they call it the Big SUL UL tarp or something like that. Can't remember the name exactly. They sent this to me a couple of years ago for a review. I used it a couple of times, but it's a hammock tarp. I can use it on the ground, so that is cool. But I generally don't carry it because it's SUL nylon. If I want to sleep on the ground and carry my tent, just about my entire tent setup is lighter than just this tarp. For the tarp, with the ridge line, the single ridge line, with the knot bone and the Night Eyes figure 9, and then of course all the guy lines that I have attached to it, it comes to 16.2 ounces. My tent setup is like 20 ounces. So it's almost, just for this, is almost the entire weight of just my tent. So, but anyway, it's the only hammock tarp I have. Like I said in the previous video, I'm not a big hammock guy. I very rarely go hammock, so I can't justify the cost of a Cuban fiber tarp, so I use this. As far as the tarp itself is concerned, it's a very nice tarp. They do a good job of putting the tarp together. The material's pretty nice. I didn't have any misting or anything that I noticed coming from the tarp, because at first when I felt those drops of water, I kept rubbing the top of the tarp, and it was completely dry up underneath. So I know it wasn't because the SUL nylon material itself was misting. So I mean, it's a good material. It's a well thought out tarp, but it's SUL nylon. It has been a long time since I slept under SUL nylon. I can't tell you the last time I slept under SUL nylon, but when I slept under it this night, particularly in the rain, I remembered one of the reasons why I love Cuban fiber so much. SUL nylon will stretch. I mean, it will stretch. When I went to bed that night, before I went to bed, I set it up and I made sure everything was taut, was tight. The ridgeline, I can adjust the tarp's position on the ridgeline using the soft shackles, and then of course with my guy lines, I can make sure it's all tarp. Everything was at the angles it was supposed to be. Everything was pulled tight. Had a nice little cat cut bow in the top. It was taut. Throughout the night, even before I went to bed, after I'd set it up, before I went to bed, I even went and retensioned everything. So that gave me my second time. By the time a couple hours, probably about 2 hours into the storm, the tarp had sagged so bad that it was drooping down close to me. It was sagging so bad that as it was raining, because of the droop, there was puddles actually forming down at the sidelines. And then, of course, when a big gust of wind would come through, it would kind of poof the tarp out, and I could hear just puddles of water rolling off and hitting the ground over the rain. It was amazing at how bad that tarp sagged, and that's just SUL nylon. Probably just a little after midnight, I got up. It kind of slacked off just a little bit. I got out there, but here I am standing in the rain. I'm having to tension the ridge line and all four corners and getting everything back the way it needed to be. Standing out in the rain at midnight. I've never had to do that with Cuban fiber. Now, I'm not knocking SUL nylon either. I'm sure some SUL nylons might stretch more than others. I'm just saying, that's why I like Cuban fiber. Cuban fiber, I don't have to do any of that retention and stuff. I just like it a lot better. Another thing too, laying under this tarp and the rain hitting it. I've heard a lot of people say that, oh, it's so loud laying up underneath Cuban fiber and it's raining. I'd rather have SUL nylon. I'm sorry. I did not see any difference. The rain was hitting this thing and it was loud. Now, don't take that as a bad thing. I actually enjoy the sound of raindrops hitting Cuban fiber or SUL nylon. It doesn't really bother me. I kind of enjoy laying there listening to it. But one of the first things I thought about, and this is before I even thought about Cuban fiber, was, wow, this is kind of loud. And then I started thinking about all those times I've read people say how much louder it is under Cuban fiber. I'm sorry, folks. I don't believe that. you can't tell me that. I don't believe it. After spending over 5 years laying up underneath the Cuban fiber tent or tarp versus laying up under my SUL nylon, it is just as loud. I don't see any difference. Also, some folks has asked me, well, maybe you had the sides out too far. I had the sides. It was probably a little bit less steep than on my tarp. However, you can't, it doesn't really matter, because if you have wind-driven rain, which we did, the rain's going to be hitting it from all different angles. So it wasn't like it was completely flat, but my tarp may be like, or my tent may be like this, whereas my tarp may have been like that. It was a very small difference in the angle of the walls. Fact of the matter is, the SUL nylon to me is just as loud as Cuban fiber. So I'm going to stick with my Cuban fiber. I'm getting close, guys. Alright, so this is my light trail cook kit. This is a 550 milliliter pot with no handles. I used the Trowel wing stove. It's just a little Esbit stove that folds out. It's got a little windscreen, a couple of paper clips hold the windscreen together. And then I've got a Reflectix cozy that I put around it, and I have the Rue de la Cour carbon fiber lid. I actually have a post on my blog from several years back that I posted about this. You can go and check that out for more information. I'm not going to get into it a whole lot, but I use this to cook my meal. I had the cheesy rice and beans, same meal that Andrew Skirka has a post about. I cooked it in here. It was great, worked great. I used 6 grams. I used a 4-gram tab and then a half of another 4-gram Esbit tab to cook it. It never completely came to a full rolling boil, just kind of fish eyes, kind of bubbles just a little bit maybe, but enough to just heat it up to help the refried or dehydrated refried beans and the rice to kind of absorb some of the water, and also to melt the cheese just a little bit. It was a really good meal. I really enjoyed that, and cooking in this was a really pleasant experience. It's just big enough to cook a meal in. Now, I will say, if I was hiking long distance, this pot would probably end up being, in some time, it would probably end up being too small to fill my appetite. But for this hike, one night in, 21.5 mile day, it was enough. It satisfied me. And I wasn't like stuffed and bloated, but it satisfied me. And there was actually room for more in it if I wanted to make the meal just a little bit bigger. It's very easy to clean because it's it's plenty big enough for me to get my hands in there. And of course it's shallow, so it's easy for me to clean. And I just really like this cook kit. For everything here, it's around 3 ounces. And I'm very, very happy with this cook kit. Of course, it does have limited use. I don't use it all the time. But when I need something small and light, it's a great cook kit. So the last thing that's in my backpack, not counting the backpack itself or the liner, is my quilt. This is from Enlightened Equipment. Tim made this for me several years ago. It was kind of a custom job. He kind of helped me. I botched up a custom job I was trying to do myself, and he kind of stepped in and helped me. It's made from the first generation M50 and 2.5 ounce screw or Climate Shield Apex. I can't give you the dimensions on it anymore. It's plenty big to go around me though. It's probably not the narrowest size. It's probably between the narrow and the regular or whatever it's called as far as width, and it's long enough for me to pull up over my nose, and I'm 5'10", and that is with a cinched closed foot box here. It weighs 11.5 ounces. It's got several tie-off spots where I can run a cord under me if I ever need it, but this is a summer quilt. I don't ever really need to cinch it closed. And it does have a snap around the neck, so I can kind of snap it closed there if I want to. I love this quilt. I absolutely love this quilt. And if I go out in the summertime, this is the quilt I take. I like it that it's synthetic because it doesn't hold moisture as well as down does. And the material itself does a really good job of beating any kind of moisture and kind of prohibiting it from soaking in. Alternatively, though, that could also mean that once moisture gets in, it's harder to get out. But I've not had any issues with moisture in this the times that I've used it. I absolutely love this thing. It's not a true Prodigy quilt. It's a custom job, but I really like it. So big props to Tim at Enlightened Equipment. I've had several of their quilts, and he makes good stuff. He makes nice stuff. I can highly recommend them. So next, this is my pack liner. This is from Light Trail. Again, no longer available. Same as my cook kit. Light Trail is no longer a store anymore, but these are 2 items that I still have that I use. I've been using this pack liner for a long time. It weighs like 1 ounce. So it's one of the lighter pack liners from some of the little stores, if it was still available. And it's way big for this pack, but for my Arc Blast that I've been using, and now my Arc Haul, it's a great size. It fits in those great. It's essentially, it's an open top. You just kind of roll it up at the top and push it over like an elephant trunk, and that keeps water from getting inside it. But this thing has been great. I've used this, like I said, for a couple of years, this same one. I'm gentle on my stuff, guys. I'm not one to be completely rough. I'm not going to sit this on the dirt and the rocks and sit on it and scooch around and all that stuff. I can say I've seen people be, not knowingly maybe, but I've seen people be pretty rough on stuff. I'm just not one of those people. And it's not because I'm trying to baby my stuff. It's just that I want to take care of my stuff. I want it to last me. I paid money for my stuff. There's very few things that companies have sent me for free. Of course, one thing I did point out in this video was my Mini, but I still take care of it, If it's something that works for me and I like it, I'm gonna keep care of it. Even if it's something that I don't like, I'm not gonna just abuse it. But if it's something I don't like, I'll sell, and I'll tell you too that I don't like it. But I'm gonna do just like in this video. I'm gonna talk for a long time, and I'm gonna tell you why. Anyway, the light trail liner and my extra small Zero. Neither of these products are actually available any longer. Z-Packs does no longer makes the Zero backpacks. They have their Nero now, which kind of replaced this line. Hoping maybe they'll come out with something a little less involved. I'm not knocking their Nero at all. It's a great pack. I actually have another Zero inside, and it's basically configured the same way as the Neros are. But anyway, this is the old extra small Zero. I can't even remember. I think it's around 25-ish cubic liters or something, or cubic inch or whatever, or 25 liters. It's not a very big pack at all, but for my summer kits, as you just saw, it works great. I love this pack. Doesn't have anything. It's just shoulder straps, the cords that I added to it to hold my water bottles, and I did add a clavicle strap to it just simply because the pads are Cuban fiber, and they do tend to kind of slip just a little bit. And I noticed on this hike, pretty much most of the hike, I never even clipped my clavicle strap, and that was probably because of the weight. I started out with under 10.5 pounds, so there's not hardly any weight to pull on it. But anyway, other than that, it's got this mesh pocket, and there's nothing to it. Now, one thing I want to say is both of these items actually pulled double duty. When I laid down at night, I don't know what the temperatures got to Friday night when we camped out. But of course, like I said, there was a lot of rain, and there was a lot of wind, so it probably felt a little cooler than what it was too, and humid at the same time. However, I did not bring any insulation to put underneath me in the hammock. Several people pointed out that I should. I said I shouldn't. After the fact, now that I'm back, I agree. I shouldn't have. For me. I'm not telling you to do the same. But for me, I didn't need it. What I ended up doing was taking my backpack, and this actually went underneath my backside. The bottom of it was just below my butt, and it kind of came up to the top. And then I took this, and I put this underneath me this way. Now the Cuban fiber actually seemed like it reflected back a little bit of warmth to me. This did not seem like it reflected any warmth. However, what it did do is it blocked the wind that was blowing, so I didn't feel that wind directly against me. There was a couple of times that I felt a little bit cool, not ever cold, but I did feel a little bit cool at times, particularly if it was just a super strong gust of wind, or if it was just a wind that kind of blew and blew and blew and blew and blew and took a while to stop. At that time, I can kind of feel it seal away a little bit. Now, also on my quilt, like I said, it will wrap around me. So all I did at those times is I just kind of made sure to wrap the quilt around underneath my shoulders and my hips. And as far as being warm at night, I didn't have any issues concerning that. I think that worked out really well using these things underneath me. Now I want to say too, I used it so that this stuff was up rather than down, because I didn't want any of these the cord locks or anything like that to put any pressure on the hammock, because I really didn't want to split the hammock and wake up on the ground. Where I was at in my hammock, it was a little bit of a tilt to the ground below me, and when it was raining, I mean, it come all up underneath my hammock. Underneath my hammock was just as wet as outside my hammock. So I made sure to keep these things up underneath me. However, the straps was actually kind of to the sides, so it was really just the pack that was against me. and these were just to the side, so it's not like I felt any of the buckles or anything underneath me. There was no discomfort. Like I said, it was probably, as far as comfort, actual comfort, just laying in the hammock. As far as that was concerned, that was probably one of the best nights I had. However, just my overall experience in the hammock, just again, it led me to believe that I am not a hammock person. So anyway, that's the items that I carried with me. I hope I did a good job at kind of explaining things. I'm sure this video has been quite long. I didn't start it. Oh yeah. Of course, I carried my Sunto Core watch. Not a whole lot to say about that. I don't even use it anymore to check my altitude hardly. I did set it a couple of times, but I just really don't even pay attention to that no more. I'm still using it, still working good. It's been a good watch, what can I say? I use my Black Diamond Alpine Carbon Cork poles. It's the ones that I modified myself, putting the Gossamer Gear LT4 grip or Cork-Along grips on them. Those poles work great. I absolutely love them, and until they break, I'm not replacing those. I wore my Dirty Girl gaiters. Oh, and that's another good point. I wore my Columbia pants, but as cutoffs. I took the legs off and just wore them as pants. I generally don't do that. I generally always hike in pants. It was a bit refreshing, particularly out in the open areas, having shorts. However, a lot of the trail, especially at this time of the year, is kind of grown over. And, of course, it's all wet. Walking through that, of course, I had all that stuff, the leaves, briars, everything rubbing against my legs. My legs did get dirty. I understand I'm going to get dirty out there. I'm not knocking that. But, I'll tell you what, I've had spots on my legs that I'm still itching. I don't know if it was just something that I was rubbing against, bug bites or what. I don't think it was bug bites. I think I actually got bit by a spider at one point on one leg. But it's not for me. I'm going to go back to wearing my shorts, my Columbia shorts. They are zip-offs, like I said, and generally all I do is I'll just unzip the front so that it's opened up there. It kind of hangs out, and I've got a little bit of airflow coming through. And my legs don't ever generally get hot. They don't really generally get cold in the weather I hike in. I'm not saying they're comfortable all the time, but it's not as big of an issue as if my torso were to get cold or warm. So I'm probably going to go back to doing that. I did wear my Dirty Girl gaiters. I absolutely love those things. They're great. Even when I wear pants, I'll also wear those. I'll just let my pants leg hang over them rather than tuck them in. So they work out great too. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to talk about. So, like I said a while ago, I hope this answered some questions. For those of you that stuck around and watched the whole thing, I appreciate you watching. If you have any other comments or questions, just post them below. I'll get back to you. Guys, girls, see you later.